Okay, so the last video was all about scatter plots. This one we introduced two different types of scatter plots, kind of a clustered scatter plot where we have multiple colors, and a bubble plot where the points, the size of the points is relative to a certain continuous variable. Let's just have a look at our data set. So we've got countries, we have the life expectancy in the country, we have the birth rate in the country, we have GNI, which is a measure of national income per capita, and we have a status of developing and developed. So the idea is we want to do a comparison of life expectancy and birth rate. Just a few little other things, look at the columns. Now, country name variable names in R column names should actually not have spaces in them, which is going to cause problems with ggplot. So all I'm going to do is remember we had col names gives the name of the columns, and we could actually set these. So we have a vector of column names. So I'm just going to change the first one to country name. And let's just look now, and you see the country name with a space is going to be replaced with the country name with an underline. Okay, so we're going to do a scatter plot. So similar notation, our y is the birth rate. Our kind of x is the life expectancy. Again, this functional relationship of dependent variable, squiggle, independent variable. We give a title of a scatter plot versus birth rate versus life expectancy. The X labels, the Y labels, PCH 16, so the circle we had before. Now, we're going to set the colors to be, let's just show you what this does. Remember we had if else, and this basically says if else, if my data, development data is developing, then I have color 20, otherwise I have color 26. I've actually given a kind of a URL with all the different R color numbers, and I think I got these here. So here's the actual R color numbers. I put a link in there. And let's just see what this little bit of code does. So if else, data development is developing, then 20, otherwise 26. So remember the first few countries were developing, then we had the developed countries. Oh, so if else. I don't know how we got rid of the I there. I guess I removed it. Okay, so we have all the developing nations are 20 and developed to 26. The other thing we're going to add is we have a legend, and that basically is just like a little box explaining what's in the data. And we're going to have two pieces of information, developing and developed. Again, we're going to have the little circle, and this is just telling us we're just manually creating this legend saying, okay, we have color 20 for developing and color 26 for developed. So let's put it all together. And you can see here that we have the developed countries have high life expectancy and a lower birth rate, and the developing countries have lower life expectancy and a higher birth rate, as you'd expect. Now, as usual, I've created the ggplot version. And again, we put most things inside. So ggplot my data in the AES. We've got the X is the life expectancy, Y is the birth rate. We're just setting color. We don't have to do what we did with the other one. We just set color to be development. And it will actually give you the color based on the development. And we're also going to have a label, which is the country name. I thought, hey, this graph doesn't tell you much. So let's add one with labels. We had geom point as before. And the labels, I've actually done geom text. I'll explain that a little bit. We'll go back to it and play around with it. We've got the usual titles, the X labels and Y labels. And as we did previously with ggplot, we've got two colors because there's two levels of development. So we're going to do scale, and we're doing the col, not fill this time. We're doing the scale color manual, red or blue. And then the usual stuff, we've got theme BW for theme black and white, center the title. And we're actually, basically, this scale X continuous just sets the width of the X-axis. I had to make it a little bit wider so the labels didn't fall off the edge. So let's run it. And there you can see we've got exactly the same graph in ggplot, but we've actually got the labels here. Let's just play around with it. Why did I add the scale X continuous? Well, if I didn't add it, you see some of the labels kind of come off the back. So let's put that back. And the other thing, the geom text, show.legend equals false. If I didn't put that, this is funny. If you don't put in geom text the legend equals false, sorry. You get a little A in the legend for some reason. It's almost like a little bit of bug, but this is the way to get around it. And the V just and the H just is just the positioning of the label. So if we actually put both of those as 0, let's run it again. You see that we get a slightly different positioning of the label. So I think I had that. Let's just undo that. I had that as minus 0.5 because it raises the label a little bit, and then I just put it a little bit to the right. Okay, so that was the ggplot version of the scatter plot. Let's just run it again, and there we go. Okay, the next thing we have is a bubble plot. So the first thing we do is we plot the birth rate against the life expectancy as we did before. But we do the type equals n, and the type equals n means we have no graph here. So we could actually just question mark plot. And you can see here, this goes, let's just generic XY plotting, and the type. P is points, L is lines, B for both, and means we don't plot anything. So all we did is we've just created this basically the axes. And now we're going to add symbols. We can use the symbols command. And this is just basically plotting the spots, but this time we can actually plot a type of a symbol. Symbols, basically, let's just do that. Draw symbols so we can go circles, squares, stars, thermometers, or box plots. So it gives us a range of things, and we're just picking the circle option. And we're doing it as the mydata.gni. So we're basically going to have bigger circles for higher gross national income. Inches is the average size of this circle. We're going to do the color, and then we're going to set what it's called, bubble plot, and then our X and our Y. So let's just run that. And you see here it plots the circles. The size of the circles is based on the GMP per capita. That's the one the book does. I'm going to create now a nicer one with ggplot. I'm first going to add this little library, and this is for creating fancy labels. Now, we're going to do ggplot as before, but this time we're just going to add a size parameter, size equals GNI. We're going to make it the color, the point is going to be colored blue. We've got our usual labels. We're going to have the same range as before. And the only thing we're adding is something called scale size. And this actually just gives you that just controls the size of the points. And then geom label repel. This is just the gggrepl library includes this label repel. And this just has labels so the labels don't overlap. So this creates nice labels with a size of 5. Let's just see what this creates. Okay, so now we have I didn't like it when all those circles were overlapping in the book's plot. So I created a plot with going from size 2 to 14. If we change that, we could make this something silly and it wouldn't look very nice. Let's just do 2 to 40. I had to play around with this to get it looking nice. You see that just got silly. So back to 2 to 14. And again, that's just generally how you work out ggplot. You look online how to do something, and then you play around yourself with parameters to improve. So there we go. That's the ggplot version. So we have the nice repelling labels, so they're not Germany, Japan, and Switzerland overlapping. And we've got the life expectancy in the X, birth rate in the Y, and then the size, we actually have it in the index here, is proportional to the GNI per capita. So again, we kind of showed 3 pieces of information on a 2-dimensional graph.